Friends of a 46-year-old man who was killed when he was thrown out of a Norwich nightclub have told the court how the doorman pushed him onto the pavement. Philip Ward died in May after a night out at the Chicago Rock Cafe. Doorman Stephen Hopkins denies manslaughter. Our reporter Anjana Gadgil was at Norwich Crown Court, joins us now from our newsroom. Anjana, remind us what happened to Philip Ward.
Well, Susie, a witness described the sound of Philip Ward's head hitting the pavement as like a bowling ball hitting the floor. And certainly the impact was enough to cause a head injury, which he never recovered from. Philip Ward was a father of 4. He was at the Chicago Rock Cafe in Norwich with a group of friends on May the 29th. They decided to leave the club at about 2 o'clock in the morning. When they reached the foyer, they realised that his wife Mandy wasn't with them, and Mr. Ward stood with the foyer door open, waiting for her. And it was then that the doorman, Stephen Hopkins, came over to him and asked him to shut the door. And it was this exchange which led to Mr. Ward being thrown out of the club and pushed onto the pavement. Stephen Hopkins denies manslaughter, claiming he acted in self-defence.
And what was said in court today?
Well, we heard conflicting accounts of the exchange between the two men. A friend of Philip Ward's, Mandy Harrison, said that Mr. Hopkins was aggressive and abusive and grabbed Mr. Ward by his lapels to push him out of the club. But the Chicago head doorman, Andrew Chilvers, said that Mr. Hopkins told him it was Mr. Ward who reared up aggressively when asked to leave. And we were also shown CCTV footage of Mr. Ward being pushed out of the foyer and falling backwards onto the pavement and lying there still while his wife and his friends gathered around him. We also heard that Stephen Hopkins is an experienced doorman. Only 9 months previously, he'd been on a course learning how best to eject troublemakers from a club. Stephen Hopkins is due to give his evidence tomorrow, and the trial's expected to last until the end of the week.
Anjana, thank you very much.
4 men have appeared in court charged with raping a teenager in Felixstowe. They're accused of attacking a 16-year-old girl at an address in Holland Road early on New Year's Day. 2 other men have been released on bail. A prisoner has absconded from High Point Prison near Haverhill. Taz Bashir was serving an 8-year sentence for robbery and aggravated burglary. He failed to return from a day's leave to see his family in Linton in Cambridgeshire.
The future of a Norfolk tourist attraction is in doubt because of a lack of funds. The couple who run Denver Windmill claim they can't carry on unless the buildings are brought back into a proper state of repair by the Norfolk Historic Buildings Trust. 13 people could lose their jobs.
Built in 1835, Denver Windmill was gifted to the county and is now owned by the Norfolk Historic Buildings Trust. 18 months ago, Lindsay and Mark Abel took over the running of the site with its working mill, tea rooms and holiday cottages. The couple claimed they were told the property was in a well-maintained condition, but perhaps naively, they failed to undertake their own survey of the buildings.
We knew the windmill was in a bad way. We could see that sales, we realised the sales were about to fall off. And we started to try and bring all this to the attention of the trust, but they just ignored us.
In addition, the cottages and part of the mill have health and safety issues, which means they can't allow the public access. After investing £85,000 of their own money, they're asking the trust to compensate them for loss of earnings and for further rebuilding costs.
We have spent a lot of money on it in the past, and if the money is available next year, we are proposing to spend about £80,000, but we haven't got a great deal of money.
We've got people throughout the world who are really, really angry. And this is the basis of what's happening now, it's anger, because this is too precious to lose.
The Abels say unless the compensation is paid and the repairs carried out, they'll have no option but to close the site at the end of the month, with a loss of 13 jobs. Marianne Missamdar, BBC Look East, Norfolk.
Health managers will face questions tonight about conditions at Basildon Hospital. 6 weeks ago, a report criticised poor hygiene and a high death rate. Local councillors claim people don't want to be sent there, and they're meeting managers tonight. One of the region's sporting figures, Ronnie Brooks, has died from cancer at the age of 78. He was a scout for Norwich City Football Club and is credited with discovering the Fashanu brothers. He was probably best known for managing the boxer Herbie Hyde. A ward has been closed to admissions at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in King's Lynn following an outbreak of the winter vomiting virus. 2 bays in a second ward have also been closed. The hospital is asking people not to visit if they've recently experienced sickness or diarrhoea. Elsewhere, the West Suffolk Hospital has closed 3 wards to new admissions following an outbreak of the same bug.
One of the region's lifeboat crews is celebrating after being left £1 million. The bequest was made to the Walton and Frinton lifeboat. The donor wanted to remain anonymous, but she's understood to have had a holiday home in the area.
On the freezing Essex coast, the Walton and Frinton lifeboat crew has had some news that's warmed the cockles.
OK, lads, let's have a bit of a cheer. Yeah, £1 million. Yay!
They've been left £1 million.
Well, it's unbelievable, really, when you think about £1 million. It's very, you can say it very quickly, but it's quite incredible. You know, we are very, very pleased, to say the least.
The RNLI says bequests as big as this are incredibly rare. It only had £4 million plus legacies in the whole of 2009. The biggest ever legacy it received was back in 1992, when a pensioner from Jersey left the RNLI £6.5 million. In its 125-year history, the Walton and Frinton lifeboat has saved 1,000 lives. This footage shows the latest rescue, a lifeline for a Lowestoft trawler adrift in freezing conditions 23 miles out to sea. After his routine checks, the lifeboat's mechanic told us what the crew know of their benefactor.
She used to have a holiday home up on the Naze, overlooking the lifeboat station, and saw it go out many times when she was holidaying here in the summer months. She was here for over 30 years, so she would have seen us go out to sea many times in her lifetime.
And her £1 million legacy will help save more lives. Gareth George, BBC Look East.
You're watching Look East from the BBC. Coming up, still fire